This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
But hope can die in very ordinary and seemingly unspectacular ways as well. Young people denied the opportunity their parents' generation enjoyed and deciding there is nothing worth striving for. Unemployed men and women feeling rejected and losing all sense of self-worth. Older people alone, fearful, their health and mobility needs mounting, and feeling no one seems to care. Progressive political parties exist to deliver a message of hope. For without a foundation built on hope, parties may survive without distinction in the short term, but are destined to fail with time. Perhaps it took me too long to understand fully another essential dimension of leadership, that any idea, big or small, is of little significance until it can be communicated compellingly and in clear terms. I had the privilege of meeting Anthony Burgess at the Edinburgh Festival in the early 1980s. His novel, A Clockwork Orange, was released to critical acclaim in the UK in 1962, and his publisher sold the rights to the US. Then the American publisher decided to release the novel without the 21st and final chapter, and it was this attenuated version of the text that became the basis for Stanley Kubrick's 1971 film. From the moment he agreed to the US deal, Burgess anguished over the deletion of the final chapter. Chapters 1 to 20 told a tale of never-ending violence, but chapter 21 was about redemption, about a young man who had gone off the rails suddenly finding, as he was about to become a father himself, that there was a better way to live. To his lasting regret, Burgess's vision of a more optimistic future never reached the wider audience. In politics, you not only have to do what is right, but you have to convince the wider audience. In this book, I write of the greatest test that I faced as Prime Minister, the gravest financial crisis of our lifetime, and one which could have rapidly gone critical in the form of a sweeping global depression. That did not happen, and through unprecedented cooperation worldwide in a plan for recovery, growth quickly returned, unemployment started to fall, and people's savings were secured. But I wish that in the midst of all that I was doing to forestall the depression, I had been able to do more to lift confidence and to convey hope. And I regret to this day being unable to convince the British people that we had to finish the work of recovery by rebuilding our still unreformed and risk-laden financial system. That crisis and the response to it, in the form of the innovative G20 meeting in London in April 2009, are matters I will deal with in detail in some of the following chapters. As I reflect on these events, I realize that leadership is not just about what to do, but when to act, to see when history is turning, and to know when to move and when to wait on events. Robert Frost's 1916 poem, The Road Not Taken, is both familiar and haunting. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less travelled by, and that has made all the difference. Frost later commented that the poem should not be taken as one about destiny, but his close friend, the poet Edward Thomas, having read the poem, was inspired to volunteer for service in the British Army. Thomas died in the trenches after only 2 weeks in France. He had concluded that life brings momentous choices which, once taken, define your whole future. In politics, you can never assume that the old ways will do. There are turning points when one course of action has reached its end and a new course must be charted. It requires judgment. Sometimes what is reported as good judgment is, in fact, simply good fortune. But at other times the opposite is true. It was said of Abraham Lincoln that, with his party sometimes a fragile coalition, and in the rapidly fluctuating political and military complexities as the Civil War raged and moved towards its climax, he never took a step too early or too late. Like most politicians, I cannot claim to have always seen the writing on the wall, good or bad. In my 13 years in government, there were many turning points, some fundamental, others less important. In the chapters that follow, I write about the times when it was right to act, from making the Bank of England independent in our first days in government in 1997, introducing tax credits to address child and pensioner poverty in 1999, refinancing the NHS with the biggest...